Government workers are committed to doing good for our citizens and communities. Yet the system is plagued with challenges. Fraud and waste are at an all-time high, representing nearly 10% of government program spending. I know firsthand how devastating the cost of fraud can be because I've seen its effects. I'm Carl Hammersberg, and for 26 years, I've worked for and with government to fight fraud, to keep programs financially healthy and improve people's lives. As we know all too well, no one is immune to fraud. 15.4 million cases of identity theft alone occurred in 2016. Programs meant to protect people suffer. I've seen the victims, and you know them too. Senior citizens, single parents, veterans, and special needs children. Innocent, honest people pay the price, and tech-savvy fraudsters are only getting more sophisticated at what they do best. New schemes and new threats require new thinking. It's time to reimagine government without fraud, waste, and abuse. Today, with analytics, it's possible. Recent changes to legal restrictions have enabled better data sharing between agencies, and many states are now acting to make data and analytics a priority. Data sharing at the state and federal level helped crack a $900 million Medicaid and Medicare fraud network. That one case alone brought over 300 arrests. Governments across Europe lose 100 billion euros annually to VAT carousel fraud. By using advanced analytics to proactively stop fraud before it happens, Belgium saves nearly 1 billion euros each year. Using analytics, the IRS stopped nearly 2 million fraudulent refund requests, totaling nearly $15 billion in a single year. In Washington State, my work with data sharing and analysis helped us raise workers' comp tax audits with positive outcomes from 50% to nearly 85%. In all of these examples, we see analytics in action, and it's truly encouraging. So whether you're trying to close the $3.1 trillion tax gap, know if unemployment claims are legitimate, or move beyond pay and chase for Medicaid, the ability to gain deeper data insights and make smarter decisions is critical. With analytics, we have the power to do more for our citizens, and we must.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to all. This is Harshal Desai. I welcome you all today at the Revenue Management and Intelligence Summit North India edition, which is being organized by Elets Technomedia Pvt Ltd, eGov magazine, with tremendous support from SAS India. The theme of the session is optimizing revenue through application of advanced analytics. We are very glad to inform our audience that this is the first edition of the Revenue Management and Intelligence Summit. We are going to organize 4 editions for East, West, North, and South, and we are starting with the North. I welcome all the panelists in this very exclusive summit. We will be discussing several innovations happening in different departments, including revenue, stamp, income tax, excise, transport, mines and geology, and also the revenue management within municipal corporations. We will deliberate upon the potential use of artificial intelligence and cognitive computing in revenue and intelligence management. Besides, we will also try to explore the adoption of new age technologies like analytics by these departments for maximizing revenue and reducing cost, bringing superlative citizen and customer experience and plugging the revenue leakage. We are very happy that we have been supported by an organization which is known for providing superlative solutions in this domain. I would like to now introduce all the esteemed panelists who are going to speak in this panel discussion today. I'll start with Mr. Shaukat Ahmed Pari, Additional Commissioner, Excise and Taxation, Government of Punjab. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We have Mr. Siddharth Jain, Additional Commissioner, Excise and Taxation from Government of Haryana. He will be joining us in some time. We have Mr. Yashpal Singh, Deputy Commissioner, Commercial Tax Department, Government of Uttarakhand. We also have been joined by Mr. Ghanshyam Chand, Additional Commissioner Transport cum Secretary, STA Transport, Government of Himachal Pradesh. I welcome you also in this panel discussion. We will also be joined by Mr. Anil Kumar Sharma, Joint Director, Chief Mine Officer, Directorate of Geology and Mining, Government of Uttar Pradesh. He will be also joining us after some time. Shri Sunil Gupta ji, Revenue Officer, Jammu Municipal Corporation, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है सुनील गुप्ता जी. और हमारे साथ आज जो एक्सपर्ट हैं, we have the expert from SAS India, Mr. B. Radhakrishna, Director, Fraud and Security Intelligence, SAS. Once again, I welcome you all in this program, Revenue Management and Intelligence Summit. As I mentioned, optimizing revenue through application of advanced analytics is the theme for this program, and this is the first edition for North India. I would request Mr. B. Radhakrishna to set the tone and the context for this program today. And after then, I will request all the panelists for their views. So, Mr. B. Radhakrishna, over to you.
Thanks, Harshal. First of all, my sincere thanks to each one of the speakers as part of this event today on revenue intelligence and management. We have representation from different revenue generating departments of the state and central government. I'm sure we will have valuable exchange of ideas on the current trends in revenue management and efforts the departments are taking to increase the revenue of the various departments in the state. The nature and magnitude of the challenges to increase the compliance and revenue may vary in various departments like GST, excise, transport, property tax, mining, and others. And the reasons for it could be, varying. Some of the reasons are as follows. The first one being the level of automation or digitization in the department, dependency on data from other departments, data quality itself, level of staffing, and of course, one of the very, very important things is capabilities, what the department has to exploit the data to generate insights using AI and ML. The ensuing pandemic has an adverse impact on the revenue generation and requires to deploy technologies and processes to generate efficiencies and effectiveness in the operations. Okay, let me share some of the views regarding revenue management and intelligence based on our experience engaging with multiple state and central governments in India. If you look at what we have experienced in 2020 and the experience what we are having at this point of time owing to the pandemic, governments are heavily investing in providing life-saving healthcare starting from 2020 owing to this pandemic. They're deploying resources where it mattered most in terms of providing the medical infrastructure, cash assistance, benefits to the citizens, and of course, what you're seeing at this point of time, vaccination support. What we have also experienced from the government's perspective is a lot of volatility in the revenue owing to the lockdown and impacts on the business. So how does it look like if we look into last fiscal year, which is 2021? While it started on a very low note owing to the lockdown, Janata curfew in April, but what we see over a period of time, there has been a recovery. And there are some interesting points relating to this recovery. For the first time, we have seen the GST collections have crossed 1 lakh crore consecutively for 6 months, which indicates that there are some economic recovery given the condition what we have seen in the beginning of the fiscal year. Some of the reasons that are attributed by the GST Council is one, monitoring against the fake billing, usage of deep dive analytics, from data from multiple sources, including GST, income tax, and customs. And of course, very, very effective tax administration. What do analysts, how are analysts looking the situation as? As what you see, there is a heavy spending by the governments to shield individuals, citizens from the economic consequences of the pandemic and lockdown. The kind of assistance that is being provided is involving heavy spending by the governments. What needs to be done to support this spending, of course, is the revenue, which also got impacted substantially because of lockdown. And government essentially is under tremendous pressure with respect to the financial management. Now, based on our experience of working in multiple departments in India across state and central government, specifically the revenue generating departments, here is understanding of some of the challenges what we see. In the domain of tax and excise, what we see is some desegregated revenue systems, commodity misclassification, greater understanding of taxpayer is required, and of course, not much analytics is being used at this point. With respect to stamps and registration, there's issue around undervaluation of properties, misclassification of properties, issues around market price calibration, and a lot of issues around registration documents. In one of the largest implementations in India relating to property tax, what we've realized is there are issues around erroneous assessment, misclassification of, again, the properties, issues around unassessed property. And in the context of mining, what we are seeing is there is increasing number of volume of transactions which need to be analyzed. There are increasing number of entities. Again, there are issues around grade and royalty assessments, which is impacting the revenue for mining department. And a lot of issues around transport, again, with respect to ensuring better road safety, preventing revenue leakage, and compliance, monitoring, and reporting. Is there a recipe for this? Is there a framework which can essentially deal with these issues? Yes, indeed. So as what we will see with various departments, there's a lot of data that is getting generated. Case in point is GST or excise, where we look into returns, we look into sales and purchase data, a lot of data that is being collected around dealer registration, watch list, and of course, other government data. In this case, it could be CBDT, CBIC, and so on. Now, if you move to stamps and registration, we look into the land records, a lot of digitized data, watch lists, and a lot of aggregators, data relating to aggregators. If you look into property tax, we see data around property, demand, licenses which are issued by shops and establishments, licenses relating to water connections, health and building proposals, and so on. One of the important aspects is being able to consolidate this data. And this is where 50 to 60% of the data effort is involved in terms of ingestion, cleansing, enrichment, resolving the entities, connecting these entities to create something what we call it as a repository. And this data in the repository with respect to entities, transactions, behaviors is used to apply multiple techniques, which I will discuss in detail, to generate exceptions, to better understand the entities, whether it is taxpayer, property, a mine, a licensee, and so on. And these exceptions are investigated. And the outcome of these investigations, that it is either a true positive or a false positive. And that information will flow back into the repository to add intelligence on a continuous learning basis. It also flows to the source system so that the source systems are also updated with some level of intelligence. Now, there are two important questions that we essentially try to answer, unlike the traditional approaches. The first question is, At what levels do we monitor? Second question is, what are the different methods, or what we call is how do we monitor it? Let's come to the first question. What are the levels of monitoring? Traditionally, most of the monitoring used to get restricted to an event. Event could be in the context of a tax, it could be a return, it could be a sale or a purchase, invoice, e-way bill, or registration. In the context of property tax, it could be an assessment or a demand. In the context of mines, it could be a registration, a licensee, or evacuation. Any of these things could be events. While it is good to start monitoring the events, it is not just sufficient. It is important that we move to a level above this event, what we call it as an entity. And the entity here could be anything, not just the entity relating to a dealer. It could be an address, it could be an IP address, it could be a phone, and so on. And the third level of monitoring is network. Here is where we talk about monitoring group of entities, and this is where the benefit starts accruing in multiple ways. So I'll talk about some of these examples in a few minutes. The second aspect is, how do we monitor? Is there a silver bullet that a particular method will essentially generate the results what we look at? Our experience doesn't say so. Our experience says that given the diversity of the problem, given the maturity of the fraudsters, given the maturity of the entities involved, we essentially look at a range of techniques, and we call it as hybrid analytics for revenue intelligence. It starts with dealing with known patterns. Based on our experience, we essentially deploy business rules which are generated based on our experience. We slowly move into the realm of unknown patterns, where we look into identifying anomalies with respect to peer groups, with respect to behavior over a period of time. And the next level of sophistication is dealing the complex patterns. How do we deal with the complex patterns? Here is where we try to understand, using supervised techniques, based on the historical data, we try to identify what are those factors which are highly correlated to the behavior, what we are looking at. And then, of course, the one which we are using a lot these days is being able to generate some sense out of the unstructured data. There's a lot of text that is generated during the course of operations, and that text essentially captures a lot of intelligence, and that need to be extracted. And that's where we talk about text analytics. And then, of course, one of the very, very important things is where you may look into such number of cases being very low, but very, very high impact, is network analysis, being able to identify, monitor suspicious relationships between various entities in your business. All in all, we use combination of these techniques to identify suspicious behavior which relates to non-compliance, tax evasion, so that it can be detected and flagged off for investigation. Now, here are some of the examples or the use cases of the techniques which I spoke about. The first one, of course, is an example of a supervised technique. So here is where we're trying to identify, given that we have raised a demand, we need to identify the targets which will result in complying with that particular demand, which is nothing but recovery. So what are those factors? What are those attributes relating to entities and transactions where the recovery rate will be very high based on the demand raised? And if you look at here, some of the factors include the very high sales purchase ratio, certain commodities, the turnover category. Each of these factors are highly correlated to the recovery aspect of the demand. This is very, very important aspect, because the cost associated with recovery is very, very high, because most of these demands might fall into litigations. A second example, which is text analytics. If you look at some of these entries here, where there's a description of the goods details. Basically, this indicates the transactions that have happened between various dealers with the description of the goods, what they have dealt in or transacted in. Apart from the red flags, what you're seeing here, what we see, one of the red flag here is there is trading that is happening or transactions that are happening between dealers across multiple categories. For example, a metal dealer, a food dealer, a garment dealer, a service dealer, which might indicate a probable bill trading. By the way, there was no clear specification that these dealers are handling a particular category. We extracted those things, those probable categories from the text that is listed here. And the last example, again, this is very, very interesting. We spoke about scoring the dealers. How do we score the dealers? The scoring of the dealers could be based on the experience. Here is where we're talking about underreporting of liability in GSTR 3B, over-reporting of ITC, the benefit what has been claimed. And most interesting aspect is the dealer is involved in multiple suspicious networks. As what you see on the left side, this particular dealer is involved in multiple suspicious networks, as much as 17 networks is part of a suspicious behavior. And he could be the kingpin in terms of generating the fake invoices, fake bills, and supplying it to multiple networks. So we spoke about a few use cases and how advanced analytics with hybrid detection techniques will help. And again, whatever I spoke are in the context of the experiences what we have in Indian context based on our engagements, whether it is in GST, excise, mining, transport, healthcare, property taxes, including utilities. We are extensively engaged in multiple state governments, and we did create a lot of impact in generating revenue for these states. Lastly, why do we make a lot of difference? Why SaaS is of a low risk and high value choice? We essentially look at the problem right from data to intelligence, where we have to look into the quality of data, integrate the data, create a repository, and ensure that that is usable, so that all the techniques what we deploy in that essentially becomes very, very valuable. Our experience of dealing with data in India, whether it is citizen, whether it is property, whether it is dealer, whether it is transactions, we have immense experience of working with this particular data so that we could generate value to our customers as quickly as possible. And the ROI realized is multiple times the investment in the year one itself. Thanks a lot for giving this opportunity. I sincerely request to get in touch with our colleagues to know more about the use cases and the success what we demonstrated. I once again welcome the speakers to the event today, and I'm sure we will hear from the experts in this particular area the various ideas in terms of how we can essentially increase and manage the revenue for various departments, revenue generating departments of the state. Harshal, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. B. Radhakrishna. It was glad to hear from you, and we are also glad that so many experts from different states have joined us today to share their opinion and their expertise in this platform. So now, now I would request all our panelists to share their opening remark with us, and I think I should start with Mr. Shaukat Ahmed. I would request you, sir, to please share your opening remark and your views on the significance of this subject in today's time. And I request all the panelists to have their opening remark in about 5 to 7 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you, Harshal, and thank you everyone for allowing me this opportunity to join this session today. I mean, as everyone would agree that data perhaps is the most important aspect of human life that has now taken over almost completely. In fact, data is basically that's running the countries today. Be it Aadhaar, be it say the GST, and be it the income tax, almost everybody is relying on data only. So the data analytical part is very crucial and very critical. I am currently in an organization that deals with the revenue collection for the state of Punjab. And you would agree that a person, a GST registered taxpayer, there are crores of them, more than 2.3 crore. And if I see in the state of Punjab, so we have more than 3.6 lakh registered taxpayers. And each one of them, excluding say the composition taxpayers, each one of them is supposed to at least submit 2 returns on a monthly basis. So imagine 3.6 lakh people submitting returns on a monthly basis just in state of Punjab. So we have 7.2 lakh returns. Each of those returns has around, say, in some cases, hundreds of columns, but in other cases, at least some 30, 40 odd columns and rows and arrows, rows and columns in that. So you can just imagine that a particular board in charge, an officer who deals with around 1,000 odd dealers, how much data he has available at his platform, and how do we expect an officer dealing with 1,000 dealers to scrutinize, say, 2,000 returns in 1 month, each of which has around 20, 30 columns. So it becomes extremely essential that we have tools and we have technologies to support the field staff so that they are able to actually work on the data that is more important to them, say in terms of what are the anomalies that you expect that you should be knowing and for which you need to take action. Say, what are there any kind of chain linkages, interlinkages? Are there any kind of networking between the different firms? Are the firms actually paying their required amount of tax or not? So the kind of anomalies that a normal taxpayer, a normal field official should have available at his desk, so that he is able to focus on the most risky people, wherein the actual amount of revenue is getting stuck. So this is one aspect of it. Then the other aspect comes that not just the kind of data that's available, you also need to predict the kind of behavior that the taxpayers have. Not just in, say, in case it will be in any of the departments, maybe even in the electricity department, the kind of consumption behavior that is happening in the different units. Same way in the transport, say area wise, or say the vehicle wise, how they are changing, how their sales are happening. This also has an indirect effect on, say, calculating, say, from the finance department point of view, how are the consumption behaviors in the economy changing. So I mean, almost all these departments, there are interlinkages. Say how much unit a particular firm is using, how much units of electricity it is using, has a linkage with how much production it has, and then ultimately it has linkage with how much tax I should be actually getting. So so basically it's important that data from the different departments, since there are issues in the government, in fact departments don't talk to each other, and as a result you don't have data that much readily available. So there's a need basically for collaborating between the departments, having say data sharing policies in place for the first place, so that this data sharing takes place, and on that basis the inter-departmental linkages of data are established, and on that basis I think that fraud analytics or network analytics, it can have much more meaningful way of say coming to the fore. In the same way, I would say rather the second part that we have a behavioral aspect I was thinking. So not just that you are taking action, say you get on the basis of data, you have certain anomalies, you have certain networking, you have found out certain circular trading, say, events. On that basis, if you take certain kind of an action, then the system should be such that it should be able to learn from itself. Say, right, once you have taken action in 1 or 2 cases or 1 or 3 cases, on the basis of feedback that you are going to be giving to the system should be able to match up and change accordingly on the basis of the responses that we are giving, on the basis of feedback that we are giving. So there are, say currently we are working one of the machine learning tools, and we have an MOU with Jaipal. We are working with them to develop a machine learning tool to identify the bogus firms. Similarly, we have also partnered with SAS, and we have purchased the SAS tool, and we are working with it. We have done some analysis on it. So basically, you can see that data is the new lifeline, and all the departments, basically, we need to basically synergize our efforts. We need to coordinate with each other talk to each other, share with each other. In fact, there's more sense in centralized placing of whole of this data, so that there is communication between the different sets of data, and we are actually able to realize the potential that this whole infrastructure, the whole data that we have available with us is able to support the revenue generation for the government. That's, I think, what perhaps is important,
Right.
that I could understand.
Very well said, Mr. Shaukat Ahmed. I believe after B. Radhakrishna, you have further, highlighted different things that are necessary, and data is indeed the key for this. So we have also been now joined by Mr. Siddharth Jain, Additional Commissioner, Excise and Taxation, Government of Haryana. Welcome, Mr. Siddharth Jain, to Revenue Management and Intelligence Summit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll come to you next. Let me first now ask Mr. Yashpal Singh, Deputy Commissioner, Commercial Tax Department, Government of Uttarakhand, for his opening remark and his view on the significance of the subject for today's program.
Thank you, Arshad. And thanks, Elets and SAS, for providing us this great opportunity. Welcome to all other authorities from all other states. Basically, we are Model 2 state. Uttarakhand is a Model 2 state. That is, our data is dealt with by GSTN, which has developed a common software based on processes defined and agreed by those states. In all the participating states, all the six states are participating in this forum. So all the six participating states except Haryana are Model 2 states. Am I correct, sir? Then there is an e-way system in the place which generates a huge chunk of data per day. Daily lakhs of e-way bills are prepared related to movement of goods, but that is not integrated with our that system developed by back office system developed by GSTN. So the first need, I think, is to integrate these two systems, these two independent systems, first e-way system and second back office system used by Model 2 states. Then we have a large number of data. We can classify data. Initially, what we can say, formal data. Formal data, the data available with the department, our own data. We can say the returns filed, refunds claimed, TDS and TCS data, statements or documents submitted with the department. These we can categorize as formal data. Then there is a semi-formal data, the data available with other agencies, as Shaukat sir has said, in the department with banking agencies, audit reports, all those things. The data that has been restricted for general purposes and available only to specific departments. We can also get it by cross-reference only. We have not direct access to this type of data, as other agencies has not direct access to our data. Then finally, there is informal data available to all, which is contained in form of advertisement, publicized data, data available due to comparisons, data held by other relevant players, commercial complex owners, weighbridge owners, and all these things. That data is on the public domain and available to all. I think this is the most important data which needs to be analyzed and matched with the formal data to get the result on which we can rely upon for our further action. Again, coming back to the issue, we are dealing with various types of frauds, and under the GST regime, we can say there is a flood of fraudsters. Most common type of frauds: issuing invoices without supply of goods, then issuance of invoice by fake firms or non-existent firms, or what we can say shell companies. Then circular trading is there, and typical feature of circular trading is that in case of circular trading, a number of firms are involved. They are making transactions between each other. Essentially, one of them or more than one of those firms should be fake, or ultimately making supplies to export to deemed export units, or to making exports, or otherwise then by way of supply then only these firms can be benefited by circular trading. So this is the benchmark, or this is the most important parameter by which we can trace the circular trading.
Right.
Then another type of fraud using data or details of some another taxpayer by someone else. For Uttarakhand, we have some state-specific issues. We are not a larger state. We are basically a consumer state. What our major source of revenue are: tours and travel services, goods and passenger transportation services, then restaurant services, parking services, e-com platform players, online services, adventurous and tourism, and so on. Mining is also a major issue there. Since we are a consumer state, data relating to the final consumption, I'm saying final consumption by mean final consumption, that the supplies which are going to the hand of consumer or terminating supplies, these are most important for us and to all the smaller states which are basically consumer states. Our basic challenge is to tap these type of supplies.
Right.
And we are in this field, we are lacking, because these consumeristic sales, we have no mechanism to trace, and this is the major source of revenue drain. Then IGST place of supply issues are there. I'm in the investigation since last 2 years, and I felt that due to faulty place of supply issues, we are losing major revenue. I have got with this Byju's learning app. That's just an example. So what they were doing, they were making supplies to the state of Uttarakhand, but booking those supplies to UP. Since UP was our parent state and we have disintegrated from the UP.
Right.
So they said that that was due to their faulty software. So this is just an example.
Yes.
Due to inappropriate place of supply, we are also losing revenues. There are e-way bill issues, bill to ship to issues, then consignment valuing less than rupees 50,000 are not coming on record. The major one of the major concern is that transportation charges. Transportation charges are not less than the in quantum of the as related to the goods. If we can say per day, for example, goods of rupees 100 are entering in the state of Uttarakhand, then their transportation charges is not less than 30 to 40 rupees. And we have losing all the revenue since transportation charges are on taxable on RCM basis. So there is no way except the transportation paid by larger companies or the companies which requires ITC for those.
Right.
We are losing revenue on transportation charges also. So these are some major issues where this data analytics can do for us.
Yes.
Finally, I can say each drop, however smaller, is important to fill the pot. Our revenue pot can be filled by tapping each drop. There will be no rain. We will have to tap each drop.
Yes. Yes.
So that's my issue.
You rightly highlighted some of the challenges, sir, and I'm sure Mr. Radhakrishna will address many of them when he speaks. But now I would like to go to Mr. Siddharth Jain, Additional Commissioner, Excise and Taxation, Government of Haryana. Sir, I now request you for opening remark for this conference, for this summit. And what do you think, on the data mining, data integrity, how does it play a crucial role when it comes to revenue management mechanism within different departments? Siddharth Jain.
Yeah. So hello everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. So just one thing is that Yashpal ji was just mentioning that we are the only Model 1 state left. So I would want to inform that that is something that we have already started. In fact, you will see in the next as soon as a month that you will see us becoming a Model 2 state. So that will happen quite very fast for us, and we have already taken that decision and we have already started the transition process, etc. So, having said that, I think, all of us who are here and who are representing states have put it very aptly of, how data is the next big bet. In fact, in Haryana, in the last 1 month, I am doing so many cases. I've done so many cases on TCS, TDS, GST and 9C data, and we've made crores of recovery. It is so easy. if you have data, then there is, recovery is the easiest. If you do not have data, in fact, a lot of states, in fact, I come from central government and I've worked in GST and I've worked in policy. I think I would know most about GST in a lot of places. What people are not able to understand is that data is low hanging anti-evasion fruit. Okay, you don't have to do anything if you have the right data. You do not have to have any informers. You do not have to do a lot of roadside checking. You don't have to do big cases, because today we are sitting on so much data where only through return and counterparty data we have a lot of stuff. So for example, TCS is where, and I'm sure other people would be doing the same analysis. I know so many of my suppliers, so many people who are sitting here in Haryana and supplying and are not paying any taxes to me. So, and Amazon is my data provider. So when I have all that data, I really don't have to go to an informer or go to conventional sources or even consult GSTN or BIFA or any other department for that data. I have crores of recovery just sitting there. So counterparty data, banking data, maybe, even when we go ahead, data from Paytm, etc. When you integrate all that data, and then through only simple reports, we'll be able to really improve our revenue. So that is where I see the trend. I do not see, so if you really personally ask me, and I have followed this story quite closely, machine learning, artificial intelligence kind of anti-evasion, unless and until I see a proof of concept, I really don't have a lot of faith in, because I haven't seen someone telling me that, we booked this multi-crore case and did multi-crore recovery through some artificial intelligence tool. So maybe that happens after 2 to 3 years from today. But today, the only thing that the only and the most important thing we should focus on is to bring all our data sources on one platform, convert it into actionable intelligence, and start acting on it. That is the 3 steps that we have to follow. And if we do that also, you will bridge in a lot of gaps. The artificial intelligence part, maybe someone else, all the people here can tell me that what artificial intelligence are we putting in revenue data? What machine learning are we putting in revenue data? What is it that we are booking? Unless and until you are doing a little bit about carousel fraud, you made this whole goal wala supply chain and you saw circular trading. That's actually not really a lot of artificial intelligence. People here who know analytics can tell me this. It's simple Excel programming also can do that for me. So I would want to hear from others that what big data, artificial intelligence, ML, all this you can put in revenue intelligence. I don't see a lot of that currently, but I also see that most of us are not tapping on simply available revenue sources, which are available to us even today. We are sitting on it and we are not working on it.
Right.
So those are my comments.
Right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll of course come to you with our next question, Mr. Siddharth Jain. And before we do that, I'd like to now request Ghansham Chandji, Additional Commissioner Transport, Secretary, STA Transport, Government of Himachal Pradesh. Sir, what do you think about the theme of this program and your opening remark? Ghanshamji.
Yeah, Harshal, very good afternoon to everyone there on the panel, as well as your technical advisors. So I think, yes, as most of my the predecessor speaker has already spoken about the, data is so crucial in the modern governance and management of things. On that analogy, we are already working in Himachal Pradesh, basically, the challenge in transport department was a different altogether, because here we had a very conventional type of revenue collection, revenue management. We didn't have much of the online services available with us. So the challenge in transport department and the revenue management is entirely a focus area for the state right now in terms of data collection, as we have been moving towards a total transparent kind of a governance, faceless governance. And we have in fact captured a lot of data by now. As far as if I tell you, we have around 18 lakh vehicles population in the state, and around 3 lakh commercial vehicles. So these owners of these vehicles, the management of these vehicles, they require a lot of data, and there are a lot of services which are provided to them all along, right, 30 to 35 services which they seek. So, we have analyzed all this data. We have collected all this data now on a portal. And in time to come, of course, as we are talking about data analytics, data management, how we can really mine this data and go further to a next level, where the revenue collection, where the tax evasion, where all those kind of things would be sorted out so promptly and so expeditiously by use of data analytics. So I think the topic is quite relevant, and I hope in time to come in transport department, of course, across the country, this is a very unorganized kind of a department where people from different runs of society, they are dealing with transport services.
Right.
So bringing them on a online platform and using their data and then analyzing that data and giving them a little higher echelon of services. So I think those challenges are there, and of course with your technical team, in time to come, we may find some solution. That's what I wanted to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ghanshyam sir. And I will now go to Mr. B. Radhakrishna. He is Director Fraud and Security Intelligence from SAS India, an organization which believes curiosity is at the heart of human progress. So, Mr. B. Radhakrishna, you heard everyone, and all the panelists are of the opinion that data is the key, and it should be available on a single platform. And a data, we may have a lot of data with us, but then we need some kind of intelligence to make something good out of it. So, Mr. B. Radhakrishna, I would like to ask you that first thing, I will request you to please heard everyone. Give a please comment on what Yashpalji highlighted, Siddharth sir highlighted, or Ghanshyamji or Shaukat sir highlighted, and how are emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, analytics, cognitive computing, enhancing citizen service delivery and government citizen connect. How the adoption of this technology is posing, as a boon for the digital transformation in India. Mr. B. Radhakrishnan.
Okay, thanks, Harshal. It was indeed overwhelming to hear the views from the different panelists. And I think one of the key observations what I make specifically with the changes that have happened mostly in revenue generating departments, whether it is tax, transport, mining, even in municipal corporations, very, very interesting. Municipal corporations where one of the major source of revenue is a property tax for that municipal corporation. I think over last 5 years to 10 years, over the last decade, the organizations have put immense investments in digitizing or automating the infrastructure to provide these services to the citizens. Now, some of these services could also be a B2B services. In the context of mining, it will be B2B, whereas in other, it will be G2C, where we are talking about government to citizen services. I think as aptly pointed out by all the panelists, the key is now we don't have an issue of data insufficiency or lack of data. We have a lot of data. Okay. Now the point is, as Mr. Singh from Haryana mentioned, how do we really identify the actionable insights from the data? Does it really require a rocket science, or can we do something bare minimum to generate these insights and have a journey towards AI ML? Okay. I think all these points are very, very valid, as Mr. Shaukat mentioned, that they are already using some of these aspects to generate insights. But I think based on our experience across multiple engagements in India as well as overseas in revenue departments, is that One, we essentially look into the data which is generated within the department. We essentially combine that data from other government departments' data and also the external data. In course of doing this, there will be a lot of issues with respect to integrity of data. There will be a lot of issues with the quality of data within the department, and also ability to connect that data with the external as well as other government data. I think we tend to be very, very, gaudy about the data, provision of data to other departments, and that's what we have seen in quite a few of our engagements in India, in multiple states actually. Having said that, once we essentially start connecting the dots with the data across multiple these ecosystems, as Mr. Jain mentioned, there are quite a bit of efficiencies that combining the data itself will start generating. Okay? And those efficiencies in the form of inconsistencies, discrepancies with respect to registration, with respect to filing, with respect to the declarations what they make. Those are some quick benefits what you can start reaping from connecting the data itself. Of course, the journey doesn't end over there. The journey essentially extends to concepts like dealer scoring, or being able to identify the factors which exhibit which could be highly correlated to fraudulent behavior, and so on. So I think it is very interesting to note these observations, initial comments from the various speakers, and we'll be very keen to respond to some of these comments in today's conversation, also with one-on-one interactions with the speakers. Thank you, Harshal.
Thank you so much, Mr. B. Radhakrishna. सुनील जी भी हमारे साथ यहाँ पे अभी ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं. सुनील जी इज रेवेन्यू ऑफिसर जम्मू म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन, और जैसा कि हमने पहले मैंने कहा था कि विद इन म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन आल्सो रेवेन्यू एंड टैक्स कलेक्शन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ऑफ कोर्स इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन एवरी डिपार्टमेंट. और सुनील जी आपसे जानना चाहते हैं कि वी हैव बीन गोइंग थ्रू दिस पैंडेमिक, सो कैसा आपका अनुभव रहा है कोविड-19 में, और क्या क्या मुसीबतें जम्मू म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में आप लोगों को झेलनी पड़ी व्हेन इट कम्स टू रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन, और क्या उपाय आप लोगों ने किए कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा रेवेन्यू इन विषम परिस्थितियों में भी आप कलेक्ट कर पाए. सुनील जी.
हाँ, एक्चुअली लास्ट ईयर हमने ये पैंडेमिक के पहले ही हमने ये पहले मैनुअली हम रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करते थे. डिफरेंट हमारे विंग्स हैं, जहाँ कुछ म्युनिसिपल एसेट्स है, हमारे कमर्शियल है, रेजिडेंशियल है. प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स हमारे जीएमसी में नहीं है अभी तक, तो इसका हम कर रहे हैं. तो जो पहले मैनुअली लेते थे तो हमारा फील्ड स्टाफ फील्ड में जाता था, तो ऐसे हम रेवेन्यू अपने कलेक्ट करते थे. तो लास्ट टाइम हमने इसको ऑनलाइन किया, कुछ ऐप बनाई हमने, उसमें हर अलाटी का हमने ये एक आईडी नंबर जनरेट किया, उसमें उसको बैंक के साथ कनेक्ट कर दिया हमने. तो हमारे जो फील्ड स्टाफ फील्ड में जाते थे, तो वो जो हमारा एक्सेप्ट होता था पीएस मशीन से ही, टर्मिनल से ही डिजिटल वो जो उनका डेबिट कार्ड होता है उससे ट्रांजैक्शन करते थे, और वो जो अमाउंट है वो डायरेक्ट हमारे अकाउंट में आ जाता था. तो हमें मैनुअली काम लास्ट ईयर हमारी इससे ज़्यादा सक्सेस हुई, और हमें लॉस नहीं हुआ रेवेन्यू का, हमने एक्सीड किया. क्योंकि इससे क्या हुआ कि लोग तो बाहर निकलते नहीं थे, तो लोगों ने, हमारे इधर एक कंसेप्ट है कि अगर 3 महीने से ज़्यादा अगर पेमेंट डिले करता है कोई, तो उसको हम इंटरेस्ट डालते हैं 18%. तो उसका भी डर रहता है लोगों को, भाई हमें किराया जो रेंट है वो तो देना है गवर्नमेंट का. उससे हमारा जो है ऑनलाइन करने से थोड़ा हम लोगों को फायदा हुआ है कॉर्पोरेशन.
थैंक यू Sunil Gupta ji. Municipal corporations across the country have suffered actually a lot. When I'm talking about, let's say, Mumbai or Pune or any other municipal corporations, big municipal corporations, and they have devised and found out some strategies to collect their revenue from public and from commercial point of view. I would like to go to Shri Shaukat Ahmed Peri, Additional Commissioner Excise and Taxation. You spoke about technology in your opening remarks. Still would like to understand, sir, what kind of technology framework has been adopted by the Excise and Taxation Department in Government of Punjab? If you can please throw some light on this, and if you can please give us an insight on IT innovations done by your esteemed department in recent times, especially during the pandemic.
Thank you. I just first Siddharth ji ne he had raised certain good observations कि आज की डेट में there is nothing like कि बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ हमें करने की ज़रूरत है. Even at the click of a button आप अपने सामने इतना सारा डेटा आपके पास available है that it should be able to say कि possible for you कि आप limited effort के साथ भी with say within even if half an hour अगर आप अपने table पे लगाएंगे and work with the data, you should get a case that is worth more than 4-5 crores. Possibly also because the kind of fraud that has happened after the implementation of the GST, because initially the government was a bit relaxed in the sense that we wanted to support the business community in the transition phase, and during that period many of the unscrupulous elements, they took advantage of the system, and somehow a lot of cases have now, in fact central government is also taking, CGST officers have been working. We in our state have from the last 1.5 years, we have booked around 7 cases and arrested 28 persons. So yes, obviously, given the data that's available even at our desk today, we already have, I mean, our hands are now almost completely full with the available information, and in fact actionable reports also, where our officers are not able to take action. Say in state of Punjab, we have cancelled suo moto more than 30,000 firms. More than 30,000 firms which were proven to be bogus. So 30,000 firms, and the kind of sales and purchases, I mean, I had done an analysis almost 6 months back, and at the total amount of bogus billing that they had done was 35,000 crores. Involving a tax of 25,000 crores, involving a tax of 3,500 crores. So, I mean, these are figures that are at our hands right now, and our officers are working on it. Yeah. So, but there are two aspects here. The first one is, say, taking action after the things have happened. And then where exactly does the machine learning and the, say, behavioral analysis come? It comes in key that it has to be at the level of the prevention. Say, as an example, so we entered an MOU with Jaipal, and we are developing a machine learning tool that should be able to predict the bogus firms. So I thought that it, just like Siddharth, I had my reservations. In fact, we have not even paid anything to them yet, because we wanted them first to show us as to what this tool is capable of. So they were working for around 6 odd months. We shared the data in encrypted form with them. And finally, just 15 or 20 days back, they shared our first results, first reports. They gave us a list of 223 firms. And I got all of the 223 firms verified, out of which 80% were bogus. So out of 223 odd firms, I had more than 190 firms which turned out to be bogus, just on the basis of. So then I had a talk with them as to what are the parameters that they have been taking while say designing this tool. So they have taken into consideration more than 300 parameters. Obviously not possible for a human being to say look into 300 parameters. What they are looking into is the kind of residential addresses that they have shown, the pattern of the pattern and behavior of the filing of returns, the registration details, the kind of PAN numbers, whether they are the old PAN numbers, the new PAN series, all these behavioral aspects, once they have taken into consideration, then they have come up with this new. We had risk scoring done by the GSTN also. We had risk scoring that we have done on the basis of SAS tool also. And we have a third risk score that's based on this machine learning tool. And to my mind, this machine learning tool has proven to be more effective than what GSTN risk scoring is. Because GSTN risk scoring is primarily based on the kind of anomalies that we detect. So anomalies on the basis of data, as Siddharth ji was saying, that today I can see that TCS mein some person has paid this much of amount, and uske baad baki wala uska amount usne apna turnover show nahi kiya, and that tax I should be able to directly pay. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is something that we should just first hand go and issue a notice and get our money recovered. But our aim is, say, I expect that this GSTN system, say, over next 2-3 years, just like you have income tax system right now, almost foolproof, the kind of scrutiny, everything is getting online done. Same way, I expect within 2-3 years, we will have a GSTN system wherein almost these sort of anomalies on the basis of which we are recovering revenue today, it may not be, say, it may not last that longer now. I mean, today, suppose interest, say, a person who did not file returns on time, did not pay us tax on time, is supposed to pay us interest also. But in the GSTN system, there's no automatic calculation of interest. So we have to go into the system, calculate the interest that is applicable, then give it to the field officers, tell them कि अब आप इसका interest जो है अब उसके लिए कार्रवाई करो. right? So, but tomorrow, say within 1 year, I expect that this interest facility should be available within the system itself. So my report becomes immaterial now. I don't need to work on this report. Same way, tomorrow I may have a system जहाँ पे ये TCS का the first moment एक महीने में आपने pay नहीं किया, the next moment it will show me and second में आपको block कर देगा कि जी आप काम नहीं कर पाओगे. Right? There will be ways that will be coming in. So obviously we'll be taking care of these things. But what do we do about the bogus firms? So if a firm comes in, does business for 2 months, goes out, and the firm is actually in the name of some slum dealer,
Yes,
some slum dweller, you'll never be able to trace him. And he has already done business of 10 crore rupees. He has already taken over your 2 crore rupees of tax, which he has already passed on to the credit. The other people, yes, you can then take action against those firms ki ji pehle wala banda aapka bogus tha. But it is something that once it has happened, then you are taking action. And by that time, your revenue loss. And in any case, in fact, recently a report was shared by the central government also. It was parliament maybe unhone produce kiya tha. The kind of recovery, CAG has given its report also. The amount of recovery that is happening in these bogus fraud cases, it was around 2% odd, right? So if I'm losing 100 crores, I am able to recover only 2 crore rupees of money. 98% of the money is gone. It will take years and years to follow those people, and many of them you will never be able to trace क्योंकि वो बंदे जो है वो गायब हो गए हैं और उनका सब कुछ ही आपको bogus मिला. So I would agree with Siddharth ji. We have a lot of data available and our hands are full. हमारे पास काम बहुत है आज करने के लिए. We can make huge amount of recoveries on the basis of data and information that's currently available with us, even without machine learning tools and without the SAS and other systems. But over a period of time, as I see the GST maturing, as I see GST systems maturing with maybe e-invoicing or say the kind of tax paid invoices that may come in, then maybe this behavioral analysis and machine learning tools and cognitive, I mean, this may be more useful thereafter. Right. This is my observation.
Right. Mr. Siddharjan, how do you suggest to handle the issue of these non-compliance and bogus forms?
See, I'll tell you, and I absolutely agree with what Shaukat is saying. And I am also saying that if I run the same thing today, I'll find 200 in Haryana. But my understanding of tax administration is different. Now, let us look at from a ladder point of view. What is the first? See, I'm not talking about data, I'm talking about taxation. What is the tax fraud that I need to catch first? I need to catch first, or what is the tax fraud where my point of recovery is very high? So the problem of, in fact, today, I don't know if this is the right platform to discuss, but a lot of intelligence agencies are going towards these bogus dealers. You will never get anything out of these bogus dealers. You may be able to stop a crime from happening, but that is fake credit where the percentage recovery is very low, as he was rightly pointing out. Now I am going to a guy who sells, let's say, McDonald's burger. Okay. And this guy has done 10 crores of sale through Swiggy, and he's sitting and he has this huge place. He's an active guy. You go to him. Okay. He will pay up the next day. Your recovery is 100%, and you really don't have to do a lot of data analytics around it. What I am trying to say is that this problem of bogus dealer will exist. It has gone down tremendously, which is why our revenues are high right now, because of the fact that the industry has understood that you cannot keep playing around with this. Not to all the guys here, but to Shaukat and maybe other people who are from taxation department here. If you really list down the top 100 guys who are active recipients of fake credit and you take action against it, 80% of fake credit will go away from your state. So this is the way we are going. What my primary aim is that I am saying, go, if there is a unit who is active and has taken fake credit, go ahead and take action. Take action to an extent where he should know, the industry should know that it is not easy to get away with fake credit. That is where change will come. Change will not come by actually going and catching a slum dealer, because he doesn't mind going and sitting in the jail also. Plus he's been paid off. He doesn't even know what is happening with his credentials. What you really need to do is that you need to go to the guy who's actually taken that credit reasonably, because he felt that this is an industry practice, my peers are doing it, this is how I become profitable. But once you make an example out of him, then the others also know that the industry should stop utilizing this fake credit. The difference in approach here is that I have limited resources. Okay, I can either do a lot of this arrest and bogus billing and not do recovery, or I can simply go to B2C and do recovery. And that is where the change is. If I book a case on TCS, I will get 10 times more money than I do a case on bogus billing.
Right.
We are actually right now blocking credit, which is non-existent in the first phase. We have hundreds of crores of that. Is that really money that the government has? No, it was fake in the first day also. So there is where I say that our approach should change. But the JPAL thing is very interesting. I mean, that is something that we can run on B2C data. Something if we can do with them, and that's I'm going to connect with Shaukat separately and get their details. Yeah, so that's very interesting actually.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you so much. मैं यशपाल जी के पास जाके और I like to ask him also on the technology. Before that, I like to go to Ghanshyam Chand ji. Sir, you heard Shaukat sir and Siddharth Jain also. We would like to understand this from your point of view, how the transport department, government of Himachal Pradesh is actually implementing innovative technology solutions. What is your strategy to, improve the revenue and compliance by citizens?
Yeah, Harshal, that's a very interesting question. In fact, before we went online, all the transport services were offline, right? So people had to visit the RTO offices, RLA offices, stand in queue, or get trapped through those middlemen, dalal जिसको हम कहते हैं North India में, दलालों के through maximum काम होता था. And मतलब उसमें कई तरह के issues थे. एक तो आपको middleman के through काम कराना है. दूसरा जो डिलीवरी सिस्टम वाज सो पुअर कि आज आप कागज दे रहे हो तो 1 महीने बाद आपको कागज वापस मिल रहे हैं. एंड देन यू हैव टू रियली गो थ्रू दिस स्टेप्स, है ना, या तो ऑफिस के चक्कर लगाओ या दलालों के चक्कर लगाओ.
Right.
So we thought of doing away all this and remove this human interface between customer and the department. So now we have come up very we call it e-Parivahan Vyavastha, where all the services, we have shortlisted around 31 services which have been put online. So now general public, they don't need to come to the RTO office or to the SDM office. They can just from their cozy environments of their homes or from the Lok Mitra Kendra or the CSC centers. So we have given interface, open-ended interface to our portal. They can just log in, apply to the service which they are seeking to, and then do it online. Just a minute.
Okay. So meanwhile, Mr. Ghanshyam, we will again go to Mr. Ghanshyam Chand, Additional Commissioner Transport and Secretary STA Transport, Government of Himachal Pradesh. Yashpalji, we all are feeling the need for advanced analytics, right? Is on the rise. So will you please tell us how the Commercial Tax Department, Government of Uttarakhand is leveraging the technology and creating future-ready infrastructure, and what intervention you need like companies like SAS India to improve the overall mechanism?
Well, hi, Harshali. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. As Shaukat sir and Siddharth Jain sir has said, what we are doing right now is a sort of postmortem. Postmortem, that is, we have got description of some bogus or erring dealers, and we have chased them. In case of bogus dealers, we can't chase anyone. I want to tell you that some 1.5 years back, we have traced 90 firms which were doing business, which were showing business, not in fact they were not doing business, and they were just supplying invoices for the sake of ITC. 8,500 crores was the revenue involved in the transactions between these firms, and the state of Uttarakhand has not got a single penny out of it. So I am in consent with Shaukat sir that the postmortem will not work. We can't do anything with postmortem. What is required is that predictions based on the behavior or the tendencies through which these firms are working. Equally important are the violations. Since I'm in the investigation since last 1.5 years, I have seen many type of violations you can't imagine. as we all know, that cross utilization between CGST and SGST is not permitted. One cannot utilize CGST for setting off its SGST liabilities and vice versa. But I have seen these virtual cross utilization in industrial segment, particularly in manufacturing units, large manufacturing units. What is the problem with GST and data is that we are getting a summary on the board, on the dashboard, but not the intricacies, not the what is going internally. So when we are doing it manually, that how they are utilizing their different type of credits, and we have got many cases of cross utilizations. So here is the case where this advanced analytics can work, that what are the probable type of violations and where are they taking place. Another equally important thing to generate revenue, chasing bogus firms, getting them closed, safeguarding the revenue is another thing. To expand tax base, what we need that the potential firms which are not got registered, or the firm which has got registered but are not declaring their turnover properly. This is the thing we should focus upon. Expanding tax base. Yeah, I think you are well versed with the concept of web crawling. So we can go through web crawling that a particular firm is not declaring any turnover, or he is showing himself below the taxable limit. But when we search data regarding that firm, we find that he's making advertisements. When we go to comparison sites, he's showing such a larger amount of his price of services. That is a sort of web crawling which can be more useful in expanding our tax base. And finally, what is required as per my knowledge, I think segmentation. What we do, what our actions are, we can't chase and catch every erring dealer or every bogus firm. We can just show the specimen. These are the violations. These are the type of firms involved. Now the segmentation is required. Advanced analytics has to do on the basis of those parameters or those declared violations or all these things. They will have to segment the dealers, and then that will be of our great help, that if we got all the dealers of a particular segment in our list, and then that will make our task easy.
Right.
So these are the things which can, I think, where advanced analytics can do with the current data.
Yes. Mr. Ghanshyam, you were talking about the technology to improve revenue and compliances by citizens.
Yeah. So I was talking about the different services which were put online. So after that, what we have seen is there's a considerable drop in footfalls in the offices. That is one advantage we had, post COVID. So few people are visiting the offices, and plus because we have made this facility available across the Lok Mitra, so people are they can go near to their nearby Lok Mitra Kendra, which is always I think almost in all the panchayats have Lok Mitras. So nearby their houses, they can apply there. So and for the necessary, for example, you have to come for a necessary try when you're going to issue the driving license. So you have to go for the test. So that also we have done that slotting pattern like you have there in the passport offices. So we slot people, give them specific hours, so people can visit as per their own conveniences. So that has helped us basically, streamlining the footfalls in the offices. Two, the delivery mechanism has been made so easy, because once they apply it online, our offices do the inspection online, all the papers and all that, and approve, and the message goes to the customer. Right. So he download their services, their whatever. Whether it's a driving license card or a transfer or a hypothecation, whatever. So they can print that output from their own laptops or computer centers, whatever. So that is one part. Second part is the revenue. So now you see they don't have to deal in cash. So they don't have to give cash to anybody in the offices. So we have provided online services for submission of cash also.
Right.
all our operators, they are paying their special road tax, their toll tax, their different other taxes online. So that has improved the collection part also. So I was just going through the statistics in spite of the COVID. So we have during the last financial year, our collection has almost touched the pre-COVID collection. So that means our system has improved. The facility which was given to the people, that has actually helped us to manage our revenue in a better manner.
Right, right.
So that's what I think. By giving services, giving online facility to the people, that would manage our revenue also in a very technical manner.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ghanshyam Chand, for sharing your input here. Once again, I'd like to go to very briefly. I would request Mr. Shaukat Ahmed and then Mrs. Tajan. One particular thing that I'm very interested in understanding from you, that security becomes very important of the data. So how do you ensure that, Mr. Shaukat Ahmed?
Look, basically, as earlier one of the participants had said that we are model 2 state. Our most of the data is with the GSTN only, and it's being maintained and managed by the GSTN. However, we get data from GSTN. We do get it through SFTP and also through the APIs, because we have our own Excise and Taxation Services Authority agency, and we have our own data center. We manage data there. We have put in all the protocols that are required for the maintenance of the data and managing the data, all the firewalls and whatever technical aspects are to be taken care of, they are being taken care of. And as regards sharing of the data, we don't share data with any of the agencies unless we sign an MOU and a secrecy agreement with them. That and also the data that we share, it's mostly in encrypted form or through SFTP. So that's what we have. In fact, our own data policy is now being framed. In fact, it's in draft stage, but we have already been following it. In fact, when we shared data with the JPOL, we first signed an agreement with them as regards the data, and data has been only shared in the encrypted form. And we have also masked all the relevant fields that on the basis of which they could access which of the persons or which of the dealers it is. So nothing is available to them except the say the basic data for working out. So obviously I'll agree that there is basically a need to put in more features to protect the identity of, because it's a very sensitive data that we are dealing with. So a lot of confidential information, say the business interests and business secrets of almost most of the dealers, the kind of rates at which they are purchasing, the rates actually at which they are selling. I mean, almost their business could go for a toss if our data somehow gets leaked. But we are putting in place all the necessary measures. The Ministry of Information and Electronics, whatever guidelines have been issued by them for the maintenance of the data centers, and our own Department of Governance reforms, they have issued guidelines, and we are following it that way.
Mr. Siddharth, your inputs on this?
Yeah, so I agree with what Shaukat is saying, and we do the same. So in fact, even being a model 1, we have very clearly demarcated guidelines. So basically what I'm saying is that even with Wipro, we do the same thing. We have NDAs with them. We have dedicated servers on which data is stored. And then even today, now if we are becoming model 2, then all data comes through the SDCs, the state data center and etc. So that way our data, is quite safe, and I don't see a lot of third parties who will be able to access our data and do something about it. In fact, if you look at it, even GSTN with the with new addition, know your supplier, know your taxpayer, all that. Now we are giving a lot of data in the public, because that data is, in fact, that's one of the biggest things that will come in the next 2 to 3 years, is that now the bigger companies are saying that can you run a know your supplier for me, because I know very big startups, e-commerce startups, which have been booked now, which are now in courts, where they have done transactions of hundreds of crores, and they were not able to, they did not know who they were transacting with. That guy was sitting on fake credit, and the final liability of recovery went to these guys. They never knew what they were involved with. So now they are saying that we don't want to have that kind of issue again. can you run something for us and tell us that how safe is it to be with this kind in doing business with this kind of person? Now GSTN is giving a risk rating which is on factors which are, I would say not verified or not very I mean, again, machine learning, or it has not gone, a lot of data has not been put into that. So people do not really know that should I follow this risk rating. So someone who's not filing 2 returns can go on a higher risk, but there can be cases that, this guy didn't have money and he is ready to pay with interest later. So that is the next trend in industry, is that where vendor authentication and vendor verification through data will happen. And at that time, all this data will come from GSTN. So GSTN has already started putting name, trade name, registered address, jurisdiction, returns filed, return filed on what date, what returns are filed, annual returns filed or not. From that also you can get to know a lot about the taxpayer.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Siddharjan. Mr. B. Radhakrishna, one last question for you. How are private players contributing to bridging the technology gap in the government and public sector to enable effective service delivery, data security, and agile working?
Yeah, it was very interesting to hear from the other panel members in terms of the challenges, the role of analytics, and the roadmap, what they see in terms of usage of these analytics in their functioning, primarily to identify non-compliance and increase revenue. Just some of the points what I gathered from the discussion. One, of course, is specifically in the context of GST and excise, the departments are keen to understand the anomalous behavior, which there are quite a few things happening at this point of time. And of course, some mechanisms to perform high-end analytics in terms of what is it, is a matter of time. Also, I think there's quite a bit that is being done at this point of time on commodity misclassification itself. And that is where I definitely see a lot of applicability around artificial intelligence. And in the context of, property tax, what I hear from, Jammu is that there's lot that is around very, very low tax compliance actually. And there are almost all the property tax departments in the municipal corporations have very, very high arrears. And there are also issues around erroneous assessment with respect to tax itself. And what we also, based on our experience of working with MCGM, which is Bombay Municipal Corporation, one of the largest municipal corporation in India, we have seen the experience around large number of unassessed properties itself. Based on our experience of engaging in transport, we have seen issues around licenses, registrations, fitness certificates, permits, tax payment monitoring, issue of trade certificates, registration, and DL cancellations itself. There's quite a bit that happens that takes care around this. And I think the speaker has very well elucidated in terms of how the level of automation that has been done can pave a way for usage of analytics. At the same time, based on our experience of engaging with mining, what we have seen is that there are a lot of issues with respect to the revenue coming from the licensees. There could be issues around grade and royalty rates, assessment of these minerals that are extracted. So I think some of the examples what I just mentioned are the use cases what we believe will use cases for usage of analytics. Now what the point of view what we have with respect to usage of data analytics for some of the points what I mentioned, broadly hearing from the various panel members and also based on our experience. One, they would want to use data management, data integration, creation of repositories, so that they can process enormous amounts of data to generate actionable intelligence. Second, across all the departments which I mentioned, one of the important thing what they look at is generating a single view of compliance, across all entities, whether it is taxpayer, whether it is supplier or buyer, or whether it is commodity, geography. So they would want to have some single view of across all these entities. And of course, being able to identify evasion and reduce the tax evasion by improving the risk scoring and detection. I think more importantly, all this is around to improve the auditability and accuracy of, accuracy of assessment, accuracy of reporting. A couple of points which we want to highlight based on our experience of working with multiple departments, specifically in the context of revenue for states. What needs to be monitored? So one way to look at is to monitor event. When we refer to an event in the context of, for example, GST, an event could be a return, it could be a sale and purchase, it could be an invoice or e-way bill or a registration. So is the case in the context of transport. It could be, issuance of license, any other thing. Or in the context of property tax, it could be in terms of generating a demand, doing an assessment, taking a payment, and so on.
Right.
So one way to look at is these events. The other way is that moving beyond the event. If we restrict ourselves in terms of understanding these events, evaluating these events, we'll be lost in the detail. So what is also very important is to move from event to an entity. And that is where we talk about monitoring dealer, address, IP address, and so on. And third, who needs to be monitored is a network. Here is when we refer to network, we are talking about group of entities, group of dealers, group of transporters, group of entities who are part of an ecosystem. So that is the point of view what we have with respect to who needs to be monitored. The second aspect, the second dimension to this is how it needs to be monitored. And that is where I think the evolution from what is known to what needs to be monitored in unknown comes into the picture actually. And that is where the graduation from simple business rules of what is already known to the sophistication of usage of analytics will come into picture. So we recommend a very, very successful approach, what we have used across multiple departments, what we call it as hybrid analytics for detection and prevention. Now these hybrid analytics deals with known patterns, deals with unknown patterns, deals with complex patterns. When we refer to complex patterns, we are interested to identify what are those factors which are causal. For example, Mr. Shaukat mentioned about a shell company or a bogus company. What are those factors which are highly correlated to that? What are the factors which exist highly correlated to a non-compliance behavior? And that's where we get into the realm of machine learning. Of course, we deal with a lot of unstructured data, textual data coming from open sources, descriptions as part of the regular businesses. Can we generate some insights out of that, those descriptions with respect to commodity, with respect to products, and so on? And based on our experience, we have seen that there is a gold mine lying with respect to this unstructured data, and that's where we apply text analytics to generate these insights. And the last one, of course, when we deal with not just the transaction or event or entity, when we go to the group of entities, we deploy something called as network analytics. Case in point could be a carousel or a circular trading and so on. Each of these, we're not saying that a particular technique is a silver bullet to solve a problem. Based on the data, based on the sophistication of the fraud that is being perpetrated, each of these techniques in isolation or a combination will be very, very useful to identify a non-compliance.
Right.
I think the speakers made very, very valid points in terms of the application of these techniques, who needs to be monitored, how it needs to be monitored in the evolution of data. And of course, a lot has been spoken about data integration and creation of a single data repository. We subscribe to all the points which are mentioned by the speakers, both from transport department, from tax departments, from municipal corporation. All of these are very, very valuable insights, and we coincide with the thought process that has been mentioned with respect to what needs to be applied at what point of time.
Yes.
Yeah, Harshal.
Thank you so much, Mr. B. Radhakrishna, Director, Fraud and Security Intelligence, and very well said. You have highlighted all the points. We once again thank SAS India for supporting our initiative of revenue management and intelligence. This is the first edition, as I had said in the beginning. Would like to mention and tell all the audience that SAS is now the leader in analytics, and through innovative software and services, SAS empowers and inspires customers around the world to transform data into intelligence. And we are really thankful to SAS team for supporting our initiative. I thank all the panelists who have taken time out from their busy schedule to participate today in this program. And on behalf of Elets and Ego Magazine, I thank everyone. I would request, we have Mr. Ankit Jain, Director, Head of State Government Business, SAS India, for the thank you note to all the panelists, Mr. Shokat Ahmed, Mr. Siddharth Jain, Mr. Yashpal Singh, Mr. Ghanshyam Chand, and Mr. Sunil Gupta. I request Ankit for thank you note from your.
Thanks, Harshal, and it was really a wonderful event. We listened to all the esteemed speakers, Siddharth sir, Shokat sir, Ghanshyam ji, Yashpal ji, as well as Sunil ji. It was really wonderful that we gained a lot of stuff, and the crux which I got, which I remember from the entire event today, is there were 3 key words which have been repeated continuously by each of the speakers. The first one is data, second is revenue, and third is analytics. Now, with these 3 words, it is indeed very important for the government to collaborate, commit, and execute with the help of latest technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or whether it be analytics. These tools or technologies are just the enablers. It is you who makes the difference on the ground. So I have my colleague Manshu. He would also like to give his couple of inputs. If we can spare 2 minutes with him and see how we can learn from his experience while working with various state governments.
Over to you, Mr. Manshu Bansal.
Yeah, thanks, Ankit. I think RK very well explained the nuances, the strength of the technology, but to add to it, SAS has got an edge to bring to the advantages to the department in terms of establishing a continuous monitoring solution. So not just in terms of reports, wherein we do keep generating those reports, same reports every month. There's a continuous monitoring that we put in. Secondly, we bring to the table an end-to-end solution which talks about all of these components of data management, analytics, machine learning as well embedded. And importantly, the power users, the business users are themselves able to use all of these technology components. So with much less dependency on somebody who's going to stay in those cases, the business users can themselves use it. And obviously not to say that this entire analysis using data analytics is not just on the top 100, 200 kind of dealers, but it is on the entire portfolio. Importantly, the feedback that is coming in by virtue of the capability of these solutions is going to improve the results for the forthcoming period. And that is where feedback and continuous monitoring and improvement is a very important key to our solutions.
Right. Thank you so much, Ankit and Mr. Manshu Bansal. Thank you so much, Mr. B. Radhakrishna. All the panelists, we are really very thankful to everyone for participating in this panel discussion. I hope everyone must have liked and enjoyed the conversation, and formally end this panel discussion here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Government workers are committed to doing good for our citizens and communities. Yet the system is plagued with challenges. Fraud and waste are at an all-time high, representing nearly 10% of government program spending. I know firsthand how devastating the cost of fraud can be because I've seen its effects. I'm Carl Hammersberg, and for 26 years, I've worked for and with government to fight fraud, to keep programs financially healthy and improve people's lives. As we know all too well, No one is immune to fraud. 15.4 million cases of identity theft alone occurred in 2016. Programs meant to protect people suffer. I've seen the victims, and you know them too. Senior citizens, single parents, veterans, and special needs children. Innocent, honest people pay the price. And tech-savvy fraudsters are only getting more sophisticated at what they do best. New schemes and new threats require new thinking. It's time to reimagine government without fraud, waste, and abuse. Today, with analytics, it's possible. Recent changes to legal restrictions have enabled better data sharing between agencies, and many states are now acting to make data and analytics a priority. Data sharing at the state and federal level helped crack a $900 million Medicaid and Medicare fraud network. That one case alone brought over 300 arrests. Governments across Europe lose 100 billion euros annually to VAT carousel fraud. By using advanced analytics to proactively stop fraud before it happens, Belgium saves nearly 1 billion euros each year. Using analytics, the IRS stopped nearly 2 million fraudulent refund requests, totaling nearly $15 billion in a single year. In Washington state, my work with data sharing and analysis helped us raise workers' comp tax audits with positive outcomes from 50% to nearly 85%. In all of these examples, we see analytics in action, and it's truly encouraging. So whether you're trying to close the $3.1 trillion tax gap, know if unemployment claims are legitimate, or move beyond pay and chase for Medicaid, the ability to gain deeper data insights and make smarter decisions is critical. With analytics, we have the power to do more for our citizens, and we must.